Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Strategies to Manage COVID-19 Impact on the Pharmaceutical Landscape in the MENA region. This webinar is organized by Pharmaconex Exhibition in Egypt and presented by Dr. C.P. Shastri of Pharma Synergies in India. My name is Rami Al-Veki. I'm the conference producer at Informa Markets Egypt, and on behalf of Pharmaconex's team, I'm honored to be moderating today's session. As you are aware, the current impact of COVID-19 has presented challenges that prevent us from coming together as an industry in person until restrictions are eased. Pharmaconex, the North African Prepared Pharma Trade Exhibition, which connects the entire pharmaceutical value chain, all the while capitalizing on Egypt being the biggest pharmaceutical producer in the MENA region, will be held from November 9th to November 11th at Cairo International Convention Center. Pharmaconex is organized in association with CPHI and will take place in accordance with Informa's All Secure Health and Safety Standard, providing the highest levels of hygiene and safety to all of its attendees at all of the events. Today, we're fortunate to be joined by Dr. C.P. Shastri, who is a strategic international pharma business consultant, a renowned researcher with postgraduate qualifications in business management and pharmacy. Dr. Shastri will share with us some extensive knowledge and provide insights about the COVID-19 current pandemic impact on the pharmaceutical landscape in the MENA region. We have 1 hour for today's webinar, so Dr. Shastri will do his presentation and then we will allow some time for questions from the audience. I'd like to remind you that the webinar is designed to be interactive, and towards the end we will take your questions. So we encourage you to type your question into the text box located to the right of the presentation window, or click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen and type in your question. Now, Dr. Shastri, over to you.
Namaste to all of you. Let me thank Rami and his team and also all the participants for making it convenient to join this session. You know, it's a very balancing situation. We need to stay together. We need to connect together. At the same time, we need to maintain a safe distance.
Dr. Shastri, the slides are moving. Just give a couple of seconds for delay for the connection.
Okay. I welcome you all to today's interactive session. Strategies to manage COVID impact on the global as well as Middle East, North Africa pharmaceutical industry landscape. In this session, we will navigate through how do we perceive it, whether we perceive it as a challenge or an opportunity. Then we will design our strategies. As you are all aware, to design the strategies, we need to have strategic planning tools. The factors based on which we decide the strategies. So we need to understand the ecosystem, the global pharma industry landscape, and in particular, Middle East, North Africa pharma industry landscape. Then we'll use the strategic planning tools, special, political, economical, social, technological, and legal environmental factors. and also the SWOT analysis. Then we will see the business impact analysis due to COVID, the challenges and opportunities it presents. Then we will understand the disease-related demographics, the disease and symptoms, and we will also revisit the past history where there were epidemics of virus diseases. So based on these strategic planning tools, we'll decide the strategies. We'll also briefly discuss about the case studies. We'll summarize it. Then we can have a question and answer session. So the question is, how do you perceive a challenge or opportunity? The perception is challenge is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for all of us to understand that we need to be agile whenever there is such a disruption. In the past, there have been disruptions in healthcare and supply chain, and I have a feeling that we are not agile to have a future preparedness plan. Now, there's a time to understand that we need to have a sustainable regional business model and plan so that MENA can be a complementary regional value chain to facilitate affordable, easily accessible, and sustainable universal healthcare. And we need to understand collaboration is the key. And public sector needs to play a key role because only public sector prioritizes health over profit. And we need to understand that we need to focus on preventive BP vaccines, having experienced a couple of virus outbreaks, and also reinforce our capabilities in animal pharmaceuticals, feed supplements, and vaccines. As we know that 6 out of 10 infectious diseases originate from animals. And the most important is, along with universal healthcare, we need to adopt one health approach. Health to all the living organisms, whether it's animal, plants, people, and also the environment we live in. So we'll decide the strategies for the way forward. So we have discussed about the strategic planning tools. Then based on our evaluation, we'll plan our strategies for de-escalation as well as future preparedness. If you look at the global and MENA market size, it's very significant. The global pharma market is growing at 3 to 6%, whereas MENA pharmaceutical market is going almost over 7%. It is showing the second highest growth after Asian pharmaceutical market region. And the market share of MENA is 3%. 3 out of 14 countries in MENA feature in pharma emerging markets, which are also showing highest growth. Here I marked Yemen, which is a least developed country. In future, when the political situation stabilizes over there, it presents an opportunity to the MENA pharmaceutical industries, which we will discuss. Let's see what is the global pharma industry current landscape and the changing DNA. Now, the regional value chains or the regions are also developing and are becoming complementary to global value chains. If you look at the value chain, earlier there used to be colonial extractive development model. Only 4 or 5 countries used to be a key players in the global value chain. Gradually, 3 to 4 regions have becoming or playing key roles, that is Europe, North America, Asia. Now, the regional value chains are developing for sustained business development model. So, one of the regional value chain which are becoming complementary to global value chain is the Asian countries, the sea pharmaceutical industries. Now, based on this, MENA also can become a regional value chain. The current landscape, as you have seen, there are only very few players in the global value chain. Now, the regional value chain are developing, and the big pharma usually plays key role. SMEs are also becoming key partners in the value chain, and then the universal healthcare. Now we realize that the focus should be on one healthcare, and the regulatory framework, new protocols are coming, and there are flexibilities on the regulatory framework to meet the emergency needs. That is compassionate use program. The conventional business models are changing. New business models are coming. That is regional models, virtual models, and then the batch manufacturing is becoming continuous and automation. Conventional bioreactors, single unit technologies. These are very important in the current context of biological contamination. To minimize the biological contamination, these technologies are very, very important. Along with the general therapeutic segment, one immune boosting technology or therapeutic segment is also coming into the front line. And the new product portfolio that are coming in is alternate and traditional medicines, which are becoming more organized, disinfectant and sanitizers. The new market segments are home and work care, workplace care, and the digital technologies and the e-portals. The collaborative partnerships are also focusing on supply chain risk mitigation and developing self-reliance. Cost-based supply chain is becoming value-based, and ultra-fine just-in-time supply chain practice now soon develop as a having sufficient stocks is more important than having just-in-time stocks. So, along with the good business practices and ethics, there is a reinforcement of bioethics. And along with the general services, the new service models are coming. That is equipment as a service, health IT, virtuals. And there are new sub-segments that are getting converged. Diagnostics, and then medical disposables, personal hygienic products, new patient interface technologies, and traditional medicines. So as you have seen earlier, we need to understand the disease-related demographics. And COVID, the mortality rate is high, and the risk-prone age is above 60. And it is males who are more at risk. So this gives us what sort of drugs we need, what sort of dosage forms for which there will be demand. Dinakilal. Similarly, we need to know the symptoms of the disease, which system it affects, what are the symptoms that are observed. This gives us a lead what therapeutic classes we need to focus and what drugs and dosage forms may be required. Next. No. We back. 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 Yeah, we also need to revisit the history. In the recent past, we had such viral diseases affecting the MENA region. So the history gives us the trends. So we can prepare whether it's a seasonal and also how does it spread. If it is a preventive care, if it's due to contamination, we can take preventive care drugs. We can focus. And what are the common symptoms? So we know which are the drugs we need to stock. And we can also understand what are the success or failures during the earlier epidemics. And the lesson is One Health, that is, as most of the these diseases are genetic in nature. Next. Okay, now we'll back. Okay. Now we'll see.
Are you facing a problem with the platform?
Let me check. Okay.
The slides are moving actually, but there's a small delay in time.
Okay. Yes. Now we'll see we will do the PESEL analysis. Politically, Middle East, North Africa, a very stable region, except 3-4 hotspots. Economically, it's very strong. And socially, there is a growing consumerism and disposable income, which is a favorable one. Technologically, they have fairly good finished dosage form capabilities, but with negligible focus on API, which they need to refocus. They need to focus more on APIs to become self-reliant. The legal system, there is a very strong enforcement mechanism, and the environmental factors are receiving now priority. Along with the PESEL analysis, we need to do the SWOT analysis to understand the strengths, weakness, threats, and the opportunities the region presents. The strengths are, of course, economy. There is a strong entrepreneurship. There is a strong leadership. It is very strategically located between Europe and India. It's very strong in innovations, whereas India is very strong in generics. It enjoys the feedstock advantages, the chemical industry base, so it can move up the value chain and slowly develop the API industry. There is a polymer base, so it can be strong in plastics, that is to manufacture the PPE, personal protective equipment, medical devices, packaging materials. The opportunities, because of these strengths, it can be a complementary regional value chain. It can develop specialty chemicals, drug intermediates, key starting materials, because a strong chemical base is there. It should also focus on biopharmaceuticals, because there is already biopharmaceutical industry. The basic fundamentals are there. A couple of companies are also manufacturing biopharmaceuticals there. Traditional medicines that may be more relevant to the culture over there is Unani and herbal medicines. Since it is placed strategically between Europe, which is innovation center, it can become an alternate destination for CRAMS, contract research and manufacturing. And because of its financial strengths, there is increased access to venture capital and other fundamental pools. The weakness is agility. Though it is very strong in chemical industry, I think it never focused on the API industry. And though there have been past histories of epidemics, it is not prepared to prevent the future exposure. The threats, the only industry is crude oil and natural gas. It is the time to develop alternate viable industries. Now let's see what is the business impact of COVID, what are the short-term challenges, and what are the long-term opportunities. The short-term challenges are the value chain disruption they create. On the supply chain, there is a shortage, uncertain delivery schedules, the escalation of raw material prices by 30 to 80%. The freight costs have gone up 3 to 5x. There are production disruptions because of attrition of HR, the migration of the expatriates, the safe distance protocols, the interrupted production schedules, and there are in-process raw material processing delays. Solvent loss are there. There are interrupted maintenance schedules, and then suboptimal utilities usage, increase in hazards, increase in operative costs, and then the rebooting costs and the virtual service cost. These are all the production disruptions. There are business development disruptions, the domestic and exports, in all the three segments, prescription, institutional, OTC. And there are damages, pilferage and expiration due to long storage in transit due to the lockdowns. The healthcare value chain disruption, the expenditure of healthcare has come down on non-correlated diseases, and most of the surgeries are postponed. And the project overrun because of the delays is causing 30% loss or escalation of prices. So all these are leading to financial implications, and the financial burden is almost 40% to begin with, additional 40%. Slowly over a period of time, it will come down to 20%, but it has increased the financial burden. So what are the long-term opportunities COVID presents for value creation and sustainability? One is the time to focus on drug intermediates and APIs, since MENA has a strong in chemical industry, and the manufacturers and the trade need to stock or can focus on manufacturing or importing the drugs that are used in the COVID and the drugs that are used in the highly risk-prone elders. And there is also, it also presents an opportunity for traditional medicines. For example, Sun Pharmaceuticals now is trying to introduce a new anti-COVID drug, and it is commencing clinical trials. So this signifies that there is a scope for traditional medicines as well. And now diagnostics, there is a increase in usage of diagnostic swabs. So there may be shortage of cotton, so polyester swabs can be used. And MENA region is strong both in cotton as well as polyesters. Since it is strong in plastics, there is scope for PPE, and also there is a heavy demand for injectable packaging material because of the vaccines that are likely to come. So there is a scope for companies like Rag Ghani in UAE and other companies which are in this packaging. And because of the consumers focus on health prevention, there is scope for anti-germ glass jars, so which can be most widely used in consumer healthcare goods. To begin with, MENA industry can focus on vaccine adjuvants, which are used to facilitate the effectiveness of vaccines. So it also creates values creation for services like CRAMS, clinical trials, health related IT, consultancy. So collaborations, also another key area which has an opportunity in the area of CRAMS, in licensing and marketing and distribution. The first approach to in this sort of crisis, we need to be on the de-escalation mode. So let's preserve whatever HR we have tried to retain, because most of them are trying to move away to their home towns. And then you need to have you need to identify which are the key products and try to secure the supply chain. Then we need to be flexible on capacity utilization, and because of the production disruptions, because of the marketing disruptions, the additional capacity can be used for disinfectants and the dosage forms which are required. Even the supply chain practices, the companies need to focus on dual sourcing and geographical diversification, but preferably near shore sourcing. To exploit supply chain management and approvals, virtual audits can be initiated. Then collaborations are required. The regulators can facilitate fast tracking virtual audits and compassionate use programs for emergency use. Even if the drug is not approved in the locally, if the drug is approved either in Europe or US, they can permit. This is European Medical Agency and US FDA are working along these lines. And similarly, custom clearances also should be fast tracked for both exports and imports. Another most important, today liquidity is the main challenge, and traveling is a big constraint. So the industry and all the stakeholders should try to participate in the global and regional pharma fairs, because that gives the business knowledge, that provides the strategies to mitigate the current challenges. And also in one platform, you have a chance to meet many prospective customers from almost 75 to 175 countries. And to attract more collaborations, more strategic partnerships, you can use these B2B forums to showcase your company or your country or regional strengths. And you can also get techno and regulatory updates and the business strategies that what you should adopt. And you can understand the emerging opportunities, and you can focus on strategic sourcing. This is one of the main key to move the value chain. And then to identify the product portfolio, which is a viable product portfolio now. Priority, you should try to fine tune your portfolio based on WHO essential drugs, generics, because brands, the innovators have a secure supply chain. But in case of generics, most of the generics, the supply chain is located in China and India. And in one of these regions, as we all know, there is a supply chain integrity is affected. The therapeutic classes, as we have seen from the disease demographics, and we have seen from the disease symptoms. So the focus should be on antibiotics, respiratory and repurposed drugs, the investigational drugs that are under trials now. And since the elderly people are more prone for this COVID, they also carry high risk of non-communicable diseases like BP and diabetes. So those BP and diabetic drugs should be in stock. Others, the immune boosting nutraceuticals, that is one most of the common people now use. The dosage forms, parenterals and the nasal drops, because it affects mainly the respiratory tract and the nasal tracts. Liquid orals, because most of the elderly people are prone for the COVID. It is difficult for them to chew the tablets, so liquid orals. Pharmaceuticals, whatever repurposed drugs are there, there are 25 repurposed drugs are there, and co-prescribed drugs are there. medical devices, there are many surgeries which were postponed now, which are going to be recommenced now. So whatever medical devices that are used in the postponed surgeries, which we see in the next slide, you should have a stock on that. On the consumer healthcare goods, personal care, PPE and others, and this COVID has caused a lot of emotional, financial related depression. So there is a scope for psychiatry drugs. So the investigational drug portfolio is given here. There are almost about over 25 drugs. So the manufacturer traders should try to have a supply chain security for this, secure supply chain for this. Similarly, the non-COVID related treatments and surgeries which are postponed now will be recommenced. So there will be a possible demand for the medical devices which are used in these surgeries, plus the PPE that go along with this. So the long-term strategies to make it a complementary regional value chain, like Southeast Asia, MENA should develop its regional business model and plan. And the companies should redesign their business models for self-reliance and value chain mapping. And the supportive infrastructure should be created, and the supranational and non-profit organization interventions may be required. The regulatory harmonization should be extended, which is currently only in GCC countries, which may be extended to other regions, other countries in the region. And also the emergency compassionate usage program for non-approved drugs, but which are required in MENA, can be permitted for imports, as these drugs are already approved in other countries. Similarly, to be self-reliant, MENA should focus on contract manufacturing with global companies for APIs, as it is strategically positioned 2 API hubs, Europe as well as India. And the necessary talent pools should be supported, should be developed. The resources or liquidity, the cash, then the data you need to understand which are the drugs which are in demand, and you need to work on these talent pools and the enabling business practice and systems. The timelines for the short term for de-escalation, it's 6 to 9 months. The medium, it is 9 to 24 months. And long-term plan is within the next 3 years, companies, the MENA region should move up the value chain to be a self-reliant. These timelines are based on the case studies in other regions and countries. So let's see the case studies, guidelines. See a country like Bangladesh, which is an LDC, which is now reasonably strong as an API industry in the APIs. Recently, they have supplied remdesivir because the LDC, they are free from IPR obligation. They supply to the generic powerhouse India. And how India, which is 90% which is importing 90% of drugs a few decades before, now has become global pharmacy. These are the case studies. The MENA region, the concerned authorities, stakeholders should read. Then the woman chemicals there. It is manufacturing semi-synthetic penicillins for quite some time. And the Republic of Iran is very strong in APIs, biopharmaceuticals. And now a country like USA, which is funding for generics manufacturing. So similar funding proposals the MENA governments can take. Then how Singapore has become a biopharma hub, how China, India and Thailand, they have developed alternate traditional medicines. And for the regional business model, we need to take Southeast Asia, the Asian countries, which provide easy access, one market, one common CTD, one entry point, one market of 11 countries. And similar regional business model and developments are taking place in Central and West Africa by UNIDO and other supranational bodies. Similarly, you should also see the vision plans which are being developed by the countries in this MENA region and also elsewhere, Russia. That gives an idea. How do we move up the value chain? How do we become self-reliant even in the API and other key raw materials or packaging materials or biopharmaceuticals? The MENA companies, there are successful MENA companies in Algeria, Egypt, Iran, Jordan, and Morocco. These are the case studies for other companies which are trying to move up the value chain. And then how other countries, even developed countries, are fast tracking the customs clearances and regulatory approvals. Recently, USA has fast tracked the hydrochloroquine imports by fast tracking the customs clearances as well as the regulatory approvals. Similarly, same trend is being followed by European Medical Agency now, and US FDA is fast tracking the repurpose investigational and the vaccines under trial regulatory approvals. And you should also see whether you can avail IPR flexibilities. There is only one country, Yemen, which enjoys this, least developed country. Once the conditions are stabilized, maybe companies can start API industry over there. From there, it can be re-exported because it's free from IPR obligations. So similarly in Africa, you have Angola, Mali, and many countries which enjoy this IPR flexibility. And you should also evaluate whether you can have the compulsory licensing benefit based on the CIPLA and NATCO models, how they are able to provide economical therapies in retroviral, antiretroviral drugs, not only to India, to the Africa and elsewhere. So let's summarize. We perceive that challenge is an opportunity, and the pharmaceutical industry has undergone many such challenges in the last decade, whether it's related to supply chain, whether it's related to trade and non-trade barriers. Now, the biological disruptions, because basically it is a recession proof. So it is an opportunity to focus on the missing links. Then we also try to understand the global and MENA pharmaceutical industry landscape, and also done the PESEL and SWOT analysis of the region, and we also understood the disease-related demographics, the disease and symptoms to get an idea of the therapeutic classes, the dosage forms we need to focus for manufacturing, trading, or importing. Based on this, we have focused on the de-escalation strategies and the long-term strategies for future preparedness. We have also understood the case studies of different models that are being adopted elsewhere and the case studies of the successful companies within the region itself. And with this, I feel we have a direction to move forward. We understand our challenges. We also understand our opportunities. We understand the strategies. How do we integrate this knowledge and develop a regional business model and be a complementary to global value chains so that we are not caught in this sort of unpreparedness in future? And let me thank Informa for creating this knowledge platform, and the Pharmaconex organizers and all the participants and the on-site supporting team. I also would like to thank my business associates who has provided me the IT and other support, that is Inductive Quotient Analytics, Impeccabilis LLP, and Pharmachem India. And this webinar is in line with the vision of Pharma Synergies. In our own humble way, we want to facilitate synergies in the global and regional pharmaceutical industry for universal healthcare and for knowledge dissemination. All of us has a professional and societal responsibilities. So I would like to offer volunteer service on behalf of Pharma Synergies for all the local companies, especially with SMEs, to help you to do the impact assessment, to develop the risk mitigation strategies, to redesign your business models, and to have a viable product portfolio planning and business development plan, and change and develop new business verticals, and also support you with the regulatory technological services. So this is, I believe, should be the responsibility of Pharma Synergies also, and it is a voluntary service. Good. So my contact details are given here, and it will be there on the portal also. So all these references, the maps that are shown here are only representative, but they're all from reliable sources, and they are just indicative. And I have no commercial interest in making this presentation. The spirit is, it is in line with my vision. So it's incredible MENA region. So let us take the initiatives of Pharmaconex to make it a regional value chain. Thank you. I thank you all of you, and I'm open for any question and answer sessions. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Shastri. We have a couple of questions from the audience. So the first one says, how can we flatten the curve given that this virus is progressing so fast, and where should we focus our efforts?
Your focus should be number one, consolidating what you have, and focus on the new business verticals that are coming, which are also doesn't involve much capex, that is towards the preventive medicines and preventive healthcare solutions like sanitizers, PPE, and you can have alternate medicines, because in the Middle East, the number of expatriates are there from the country, and even in the Africa itself, they use a lot of traditional medicines, okay, which is becoming more organized. As you have seen that even companies like Sun Pharma, one of the top global generic companies, they are now coming with new drug based on phytochemicals, phytoherbals. So that should be one. And it becomes easier if you understand what you want to be, how do you want to move up in the short term, medium term, and then do the impact assessment, the risk exposure you have, and then how do you fine tune your product mix to the bare minimum required based on WHO GMP. We also understand in this particular phase which age group is more prone, which therapeutic class there will be more demand, which dosage form there will be more demand, and and we also know that since it is more of virtual working, maybe you can work on virtual models in case of marketing, digital marketing, and then e-portals, and you can also focus more on consumer healthcare goods. It doesn't require much movements to the hospital or doctors to the pharmacists. So these are some of the challenges. But as I said that if you can send me an email about your company, I can certainly provide you the basic strategies you should adopt.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shastri. We have another question saying, what are the industrial challenges? Is there a problem with the business opportunity?
As I said, every challenge is an opportunity. And again, it's proved. It is an opportunity to understand the areas where we need to focus. It is an opportunity to redesign our business model based on the current business landscape. It is an opportunity to develop the medicines that are actually required in this stage, or in general based on the medicines that are required for primary health care based on the WHO essential list of drugs. And also liquidity of cash is a problem, but you need to switch over your capacities. There are industries, automobile industries, textile industries, cosmetic industries, and even some of the pharmaceutical industries. They are switching over to the products which are in demand now. That is sanitizers, disinfectants, and PPE, personal protective equipment. And you can switch over also to the preventive medicine. Along with this, what we discussed now, you can also like immunoboosting, nutraceuticals, micronutrients, and maybe alternate medicines. You can switch over to virtual services. you can switch over to digital marketing. So again, my request to you is you can send me an email with your small flyer about your company. I'm sure I can design certain customized strategies for you, which you can internally discuss and refine and take it forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shastri. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's webinar. So thank you very much for your presentation. In order to serve you better in our future webinars, we'd like to have your feedback. So within the next hour, you will receive a personalized follow-up email with a link survey to fill, as well as today's link to a recorded session that will be only available online. Please feel free to invite colleagues who have missed this webinar to see it, and please fill out the survey. And on behalf of Dr. Shastri, myself, and Pharmaconix's entire team, I thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to see you again in our upcoming webinars and at the exhibition in November. Have a great day.
Thank you.